live to Nakuru, of course. There we do know at the Chemasis village in Rongai, it is the burial of the late Sergeant Kipyegon Kenei. And we have our reporter Alan Ochanda there joining us now. Good morning, Alan. What more can you tell us about what's happening there at this moment?
In Nakuru County, where the casket carrying the remains of the late Sergeant Kipyegon Kenei has just arrived here at his village for the final send-off. Remember that the slain sergeant was actually found dead in his apartment, or rather in his house in Villafranca Estate in Nairobi on the 21st of last month. And remember that last week, when the DCI boss, George Kinoti, was actually just putting into light what transpired, and he was ruling out the issue of suicide and just saying that it was the late sergeant actually lost his life through cold blood. He was actually murdered. That's according to the DCI boss, George Kinoti. But today, his final send-off is actually expected here, because we've already seen here the seat for the Deputy President, William Ruto, who was actually his immediate boss, because that is in his office where he was stationed. And I remember that the DCI boss had actually indicated that the late sergeant was actually on duty when the botched up firearms deal included, where the former CS for Sports, Rashid Mohammed, was actually just involved. Remember that he was the circumstantial evidence, according to the DCI boss, was that he was on duty on the material day, and also saying that his phone records were actually erased by his killers. That's according to the DCI boss. It's not from our account, but from the investigative agencies. But remember that when he'll be being addressed here, the Senator for Nakuru, Susan Kihika, has confirmed attendance here, the DP, and also a host of leaders from this county, of course, and from other parts of the country. But remember that family members have been overcome with grief right from the funeral home, that is Umash in Nakuru town, to this place here in Chemasis village here. But we are expecting a lot from the speeches here. Remember that the Deputy President had actually ruled out the account given by the DCI boss, George Kinoti, just disparaging everything, saying that maybe they could be covering up something, because he really wanted that everything should be put to light so that Kenyans can know what really transpired. He had actually also indicated that there was actually a great security breach at his office, and so he really wanted the DCI boss to ensure that he brings to account those who were involved. Anybody, any police officer, any security officer, any staff member in his office who was on duty on that day and was involved in the security breach. He's actually terming it as a security breach. And so they could be locking horns with the investigative agencies surrounding the death of the slain Sergeant Kipyegon Kenei. But remember that he was quite a bubbling young man here. You can see that the 3-year-old late Kenei here with his family, the son, the wife, the family members here, the mother and the father here. They've really been overcome with grief. But remember that he's been a serving officer here. And so he'll be accorded the rights, and of course the rights are given to the serving officer who has died while in office. So as the casket was being carried here, there were servicemen, the policemen who were carrying the casket here, and we expect that will be accorded the privileges and the rights accorded to a serving officer who dies in office. But Malika, it's a story that we are still also just following up, because remember that different leaders will be in attendance. So we are expecting that much will be transpiring, especially in their speeches, to see as to whether they are calling for the speedy investigations into his gruesome murder, while also the family also, remember that the family has actually been quite agitated with the murder of one of their own, because remember he died at the age of that 3 year, quite in his prime age here, serving the nation. And so it's a story that we're still keeping an eye as to how the speeches will be transpiring here, given by the leaders here. Malika.
Thank you very much, Alan Ochanda, reported there on the ground in Nakuru, of course, following very closely this particular final passage for the late Sergeant Kipyegon Kenei, and of course giving us more details surrounding that particular murder. As the DCI has termed it, it was murder, and is investigating, of course, further. And of course there's so many other things, because that murder ties into this arms deal scandal with regards to former sports CS Rashid Echesa. And we did see that through the CCTV footage that the DCI was able to present to the public, that Kenei was there on that day, and apparently his phone records have been erased by the killers, is what we're being told from the DCI office. But there are people who are urging to keep on looking into those phone records to see who was he talking to on that day when he was within that building facilitating the movement of the former CS as well as his guests. Now, we'll move on to this next story, even as we keep up to date